Hello, this is Brett from SurvivalComms. Well, we have exceeded 4,000 subscribers, and I want to take this time to thank each and every one of you for viewing my content and sharing it and participating in the comments. I appreciate that, and I appreciate each and every one of you. You know, I consider my channel to be an all hazards type of learning channel and to be dealing with preparedness, but in regards to preparedness through radio technology more than anything else, because that's how I roll. So today we're going to talk about three things that an individual that may not be the most savvy individual in the radio technology realm should consider having in regards to being able to support their electronic devices, communicate with others, and gather information. First of all, we need to be able to power all of our devices, and we're going to talk about the devices you would use to provide power for that, and we're going to talk about things that are inexpensive, items that are small enough to fit into a vehicle to provide that portability to support whatever operation or whatever need that you find yourself having. A good choice for a battery, number one, is something like this. I rebuilt this battery pack and I made a video on it, and this is just nothing more than a standard battery jumper pack. And you can use this to jump start your car, tractor, lawnmower, whatever have you, and also charge batteries, charge your cell phone, power your laptop through the use of an inverter over here, something like that. But you don't necessarily have to have one of these, although you should. And if one of these batteries was the basis of your portable charging solution, I wouldn't fault you for that. So besides our booster pack here, we also have this battery pack here, which is a little more capacity. This is a 20 amp hour pack. And when we talk about the amp hour capacity, essentially you can draw 20 amps for an hour from this battery, and the battery inside here 11 amps for an hour before the battery is considered to be depleted. So when you're picking your loads, which are the devices you intend to power to recharge, you should take that into consideration. And to recharge our batteries here, we're going to use solar panels. And this solar panel here, which we're going to roll out, is an 80 watt panel, and this small one here is a 10 watt panel. This is our solar panel. Your solar panel represents your job. This solar panel is an 80 watt panel, so that means your job will provide around 5 amps at 14 volts. So that is your payment, and that is what you're going to make. If you come back down here, you can see our charge controller here. Your charge controller is your bank. It's what manages your finances coming from your job and then going to your battery, which is your bank account. This connection right here, this is the load connection. This represents your spending habits. And what's important to realize is just in real life, your nocturnal spending habits are going to affect your ability to maintain your bank account. Now, other batteries that you have are like your credit cards. You can use them, but once they're depleted, you're going to have to use your job, your resource, to replenish that electrical resource. Here's an excellent way to manage that energy debt with your energy credit cards or your extra battery packs is with a part-time job. And this is a 10 watt PowerFilm solar panel. And by the way, PowerFilm stuff is awesome stuff. It's not inexpensive, but every one of their products that I've purchased I've been extremely happy with. This particular example here in full sun like this is going to put out about a half an amp to my battery here. And here's that part-time job I'm talking about here. It's just a PowerFilm 10 watt panel, weighs about 12 ounces with the little adapter connector. Then I have a small lighter plug to put a power pole on it. And then I also have this, which is like the world's most simple charge controller, which is nothing more than a 10A10 diode and a couple of power poles here. And this provides polarity protection and also does a small, tiny amount of voltage regulation through just a 0.6 of a volt voltage drop in the diode itself. Another choice for your battery power solution could be one of these lead acid batteries. Although they are very heavy, these are a very good choice as well. This is a Group 27 battery, and typically a Group 27 battery has 85 amp hours of capacity. Now if you wire two of these in parallel, you've doubled that. So now you've got 170 amp hours of capacity, and so on and so forth when you're building a battery bank. An excellent accessory to have along with your battery and solar panels is an inverter. Now, it's important to understand that inverters are not very efficient. Yes, they do allow you to power AC equipment off of your DC battery system. However, they do consume a considerable amount of current just sitting there idle. And when you're using it, it's not the most efficient way to power equipment. The two examples we have here is a 140 watt inverter, which is just fine to power a laptop computer or something of that nature, or some low current device, and then a 600 watt inverter. Now, unless you have a battery bank or a much more substantial battery system, or perhaps you have a form of motor transport that can power this device, then this becomes far more practical. But trying to power it off of gel cell batteries, 600 watt inverter, you're going to find your battery is going to be depleted very quickly. Even when you have nothing connected to your inverter and you just energize your inverter, you can see that we're drawing 0.2 of an amp just on standby. Well, now that we're running our laptop, you can see we're sitting about 3 amps of current using the device. So you can see just how much current consumption takes place trying to power a device such as a laptop off of an inverter, and why using small battery packs like this may not be such a great idea. Those of you who are like me that use rechargeable batteries, there needs to be a way to maintain these cells, and having all your cells in a small box like this to make them transportable is great, but you need to be able to have a way to charge them. Having something like this that's wired to DC works fine. It's much more efficient than running it through an inverter. For the 9 volts, I have this one here, and it just uses a USB plug, and I have one of those USB to 12 volt DC adapters, so I can go ahead and charge that as well off of my solar setup or a small gel cell battery.
Now that we've talked about number one, which is an equipment cache dedicated to being able to provide power to whatever electronic or communications devices you have, let's talk about number two, which is very basic modes of communication using radios. These are just skin pack radios or FRS radios. They operate in the UHF spectrum, and these things are very prevalent, inexpensive. They run on AAA batteries, and this radio and this radio, although they're from different manufacturers, communicate with one another just fine. Channel 1 on this radio is channel 1 on this radio. They're easy to implement and easy to roll out. Your neighbor probably has a set of these radios, and in the event of a disaster or something, you want to stay in touch with your neighbor, guess what? They've probably got one of these radios too. You tell them to stay on channel 4, you can go on channel 4. You can have a very rudimentary communications plan, and these radios operate on license-free spectrum. A lot of people advocate using Baofeng radios. Baofeng radios eat a lot of power, and you know, they do require a certain amount of knowledge in order to utilize them effectively. And for someone who doesn't have that kind of prerequisite radio communications knowledge, something like this is an excellent option to establish a very basic communications plan. The third device we're going to talk about is a means to gather information, and for its form factor and expense, it's hard to beat an SDR radio. Now, an SDR radio does require either a computer or an Android device to power and control it, but what it does is it gives you the capability of monitoring all radio traffic between 25 megahertz and 1.7 gigahertz. That's not encrypted, and it also demodulates with the proper software most of your common digital radio formats, such as DMR, D-Star, P25, NextN, Pro Voice, etc. So it's an incredibly powerful tool, and also configured correctly with software, you can use it to trunk follow just like a trunking scanner.
Very effective FM broadcast receiver. 10 meter CW. And there you go. CB radio in all of its glory.
The cat is going further into the vehicle. Vehicle was left with the homeowner. It appears that more invasive tactics will have to take place.
I should have prefaced the video in saying that this is an awareness level video more than an instructional video, but being that it is an awareness level, we'll show you some of the capabilities of the
SDR with DSD Plus software, and one of those is trunk following. And we have a fairly busy 800 system here, and we're following certain groups based upon priority we assign to the groups. And if we look in this event log here, this shows us the activity that's taking place over the control channel, and then our raw control channel data is coming across here. So this shows you just how powerful this software is and the kind of capability it brings to bear in something that only costs $25 to $30. This is what's really cool about this program as well, is we can take a slice of spectrum right here that we're monitoring with our $25 SDR, and you can see right here that we have it linked to a CSV file which has all the FCC licenses. And by taking this and also our GPS locationing and putting it in a configuration file, we can step through here and see all these different licensees. So whatever station we see that's active at the time, it's going to tell us who the licensed user of that particular frequency is. And this is something that works across the entire spectrum, and it works offline. This isn't pulling the data from the internet. This is actually a large CSV file that you actually load into the program folder.
Back on profs from Dell, and I was copying on 146.55, but apparently when I was transmitting on 146.55, you were not copying me, correct?
Another awesome capability of using an SDR as your primary communications receiver is that you can power it and control it with a simple Android device, i.e. your smartphone. And let's look at this whole package here. This essentially is something you could set up while you're traveling or away, and you're just using a USB extension cable, a Type-C to USB on-the-go adapter, and a simple whip antenna. You just make a simple loop around here, run a couple half hitches, and you can hang this thing by a window. And you have your cable far enough away from you to where you're not putting undue strain on the connector on your smartphone, and you can control the capabilities of the SDR device. Now, it's not going to have the same capabilities that it had with DSD Plus. However, it still is a very effective communications receiver. Now, the software I'm running is called SDR Touch, and it's a really great program. And you can see here that we can go ahead and close all these windows, and we get a waterfall display here, and we're currently listening to the Civil Aviation Band. And you can build your own custom lists, and that's what I've done here, to where I can display this category here, which has got amateur radio. I can go to UHF interop here, and I can change this frequency here. I can open my squelch, I can close my squelch, I can change my squelch setting here, and then I can also tune around the frequency looking for additional signals. I can change my operating mode. You can also scan with this device. An easy way to do that is just to go ahead and set your squelch threshold, and then just hit your scan button, and you can see we're stepping through these frequencies that I have in this particular list. So we're tired of listening to UHF, let's listen to broadcast FM. I merely would go here to my broadcast and save my presets here. And I've got an FM broadcast station here. I can also move around and tune through the FM broadcast band. Let's say I want to get the weather. I can go ahead and I can set it up on the weather channel and listen to my weather frequency.
Wave height 1 foot, 12 nautical miles east of St. Lucie.
It's really cool that a device that's so capable costs so little. There is a learning curve, and it's one of those devices that you learn as you go type of thing. And the more time you spend working with it, the more you're going to learn and the more you're going to understand. And the expense of it is much less than a digital scanner, for example. In review, the 3 things that we talked about today. Batteries and a means to replenish these batteries. Sizing your batteries based upon the needs of the equipment you intend to support. A simple communications plan and simple wireless devices, i.e. radios, that you're going to utilize to fulfill that communications plan, and to keep the radio simple so the least radio savvy person that you're operating with will be able to effectively operate that equipment, and a means to gather information. I hope this helps. This is Brett from SurvivalComms. Till next time.